Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Okay, just kidding. I'm not going to start this sermon singing another beloved children's melody. However, I do want to begin with a story about space. On April 13th, 1970, the entire world held its breath. Apollo 13, NASA's third mission to the moon, launched as a routine space flight. At first, everything seemed normal, but just 2 days into the journey, disaster struck. An oxygen tank exploded, rocking the spacecraft with terrifying force. Power failed, lights went dark, and then the famous words crackled across the radio, "Houston, we've had a problem." In that instant, the mission changed. No longer was the moon the objective. The astronauts' very survival became the only concern. Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes abandoned their flight plan, moving into the lunar module, a tiny space not designed to hold 3 people for extended periods of time. They shut down nearly every system to preserve enough energy so they could possibly make it home. Temperatures plummeted, their breath condensed on the walls, and drinking water was rationed to just small sips. Any additional malfunction could have been fatal. On the ground, NASA engineers worked through the night, improvising solutions, recalculating every procedure, and even designing a carbon dioxide filter out of duct tape, hoses, and the cover of a flight manual. They guided the astronauts step by step through each fix, and somehow, against all odds, it worked. After 4 days of clinging to life on their crippled craft, floating through the void of space, Apollo 13 returned safely back to Earth. The mission that never touched the moon became known as a successful failure. Survival itself became the triumph because it ensured that one day another crew would try to return again. So why do I begin our Kol Nidre with a story about Apollo 13? It's not because of my love for Tom Hanks films. I start here because it offers us a profound metaphor for where we, the Jewish community, find ourselves today. For generations, Israel has been our moonshot, the dream of a homeland for the Jewish people, realized after nearly 2,000 years of exile and wandering, the fulfillment of Herzl's promise, Im tirtzu ein zo agada, if you will it, it is no dream. Israel rose from the ashes of the Shoah, a phoenix of hope and resilience, a source of pride and strength. Israel's victories against overwhelming odds time and again inspired us. Its cultural vibrancy, Israeli food, Israeli music, and Hebrew language infused Jewish schools, summer camps, and synagogues. Traveling to Israel became a rite of passage. Israel was, for many of us, the very center of Jewish life. Tonight, I have to tell you something difficult. Am Yisrael, we have a problem. And it's not the problem that you think. Israel, though it faces deep internal struggles and difficult external threats, is not in existential danger. Dan Senor, host of the podcast Call Me Back and author of Startup Nation, argued recently that Israel is geopolitically stronger and more secure today than at any time in its history. Its military has proven itself powerful. Its alliances with neighboring Arab countries are broadening, and its society is resilient, even amid internal conflicts. Like the moon for Apollo 13, Israel will remain there, bright, shining, essential in our lives. And let me be clear, we still need to support Israel. And we should be discussing what Israel will look like in the future, as well as our relationship to Israel. But right now, the emergency that demands our attention is not Israel. The real crisis is the future of American Jewry itself. We are the ones in danger of losing our oxygen. We are the ones drifting through the void. And unless we focus our energy on our survival, we may not have a community left to celebrate Israel in the generations to come. For years, the Jewish world has been consumed by debates about Israel. Every conversation a litmus test. Are you pro or anti? Do you support this government or oppose it? Are you sufficiently Zionist or are you an enemy? Some rabbinic colleagues hesitate to even mention Israel from the bima in a sermon, fearful of the responses it will generate. These debates are not entirely our own. They're often framed for us by journalists, activists, and politicians who are eager to use us as pawns in their larger struggle. And in taking the bait, we turn on one another so easily. Jew versus Jew, neighbor against neighbor. We have lost sight of the mission that truly matters: survival of the Jewish people here in America. Apollo 13 demonstrates that survival requires clarity and focus. For the astronauts, that meant abandoning the dream of the moon to preserve their own lives. For us, it means temporarily shifting our focus. Israel remains our moon, our dream, our light. But our immediate mission is to ensure that there will be Jews tomorrow to continue dreaming. To survive, we must prioritize three things: being ourselves, working together, and focusing our resources. To start, we must be ourselves. Apollo 13 captured the world's imagination because people knew the astronauts as real human beings. They weren't just anonymous figures in spacesuits. They were Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes. Their names, faces, and stories on front pages across the land. Everywhere they became humanized. People knew who they were. And as a result, the world cared deeply about bringing them safely back home. But today, too many people see Jews not as their neighbors, not as individuals, but as stereotypes. We are tokenized, reduced to caricatures, even cast as memes. One reason for this treatment lies in our ability to blend in so well with American society. We've acculturated to the point that our unique identity as Jews becomes difficult for others to perceive, thereby making it easier to dehumanize us and to express hate toward us. It is time to reverse that trend. If we want recognition as Jews, to be seen, to be perceived as human, we have to start to express our Jewish pride. Wear your Jewish stars, pins, or bracelets. Don't hesitate to identify as Jewish in places where our presence appears invisible. Start with the conversations among your friends. Assert yourself when your Jewish identity is minimized. Speak up when you overhear plans for a neighborhood Christmas party rather than a holiday party. Call out the remarks that play off negative Jewish stereotypes and say that they are unacceptable. Be present as a Jew. But for an even more lasting impact, We have to concentrate our efforts not just on those in our own demographics, but on those who represent the future. I challenge all of us who are here and watching from afar to spend time volunteering at a local school or youth organization. Proudly wear your Jewish identity on your sleeve, so to speak, knowing that's not about what you wear, but what you model for the next generation. Let those kids see you and internalize that you are a Jew. It will help them build up positive images of Jews in their minds. Not only will it let them break down any stereotypes they might already possess, but they are likely to become our future allies. To speak out as adults when they hear someone make a disparaging comment about a Jew because they remember you. And that's the connection they needed. Our second key, we must work together. Survival on board Apollo 13 depended upon absolute trust between the astronauts who are trapped in space and the engineers on the ground. They had no time for blame or infighting. Now contrast that with our Jewish community today. Too often we fall into toxic patterns, delegitimizing one another, calling each other names, even questioning one another's authenticity as Jews. We buy into the narrative of good Jews versus bad Jews, and in doing so, we only empower our enemies. Every time we attack one another, every time we ostracize or belittle each other, we weaken the entire Jewish people. We cannot forget that Judaism has never been monolithic. In fact, our communal diversity of opinion has long been one of our greatest strengths. The rabbis speak of arguments, l'shem shemayim, disagreements where both sides are coming from a shared desire to accomplish a meaningful or sacred task. They don't see things the same, but when they find common ground, that yields a powerful space where all can work collaboratively together. Our texts are filled with examples of the rabbis not only recording the majority opinion, but the minority views beside them, demonstrating respect for those who see the world differently from themselves, and an understanding that some of the best results occur when two sides don't reach agreement. In chess, there's a legendary game referred to as the immortal draw. Despite many brilliant moves and thrilling action, neither player could achieve victory, yet both demonstrated creativity and resilience. Our goal as Jews is not to checkmate one another, but to endure together with our differences intact. If we can learn to engage with each other through curiosity instead of hostility, our disagreements can once again be a source of vitality rather than destruction. To accomplish this, we need to lower the temperature in the room. Stop trying to debate people into changing their minds, as if the right words will suddenly make them agree with you. Let's be honest, it's unrealistic and usually only hardens everyone's positions. Choose your words with care. Avoid dehumanizing language that will only alienate and might cause you to see others as unworthy of the respect that they deserve. Along this same vein, and I cannot stress this enough, I implore you, please retire as keyboard warriors. No one ever changes their mind after reading an email, especially if it contains unverified information or vitriolic rhetoric. Those electronic messages inflame. They lack the body language, tone, and humanity needed to overcome our differences. I'll repeat what I said at Rosh Hashanah: swap screen time for in-person engagement. Set a time to meet, IRL, in the real world, and talk face to face. While I encourage in-person dialogue, I know that obstacles remain. The most difficult, perhaps the biggest elephant in the room, is our struggle to have respectful conversations about Israel. But how can there be a Jewish future if we cannot even discuss Israel with each other? In today's climate, starting those conversations often feels intimidating. We need spaces for brave conversations with one another, focused on Israel. So this year, we'll be hosting a series of Israel forums at Temple Shalom. These will be opportunities to express one's views, but more importantly, to listen, to learn, and to grow together as a community. You can also further strengthen your understanding of Israel through our adult education classes, including a special Melton series this year on Zionism, which will be taught by Rabbi Boxman. Our third pillar for survival: we must focus our resources. On Apollo 13, every ounce of energy mattered. NASA instructed the astronauts to shut down all non-essential systems to conserve power for their survival. We too must decide where to invest our energy. It is a remarkable tribute to the American Jewish community how much we give to support the communities in which we live. Every city across this country bears the name of Jewish donors who give from the heart to hospitals, zoos, museums, and countless other nonprofits that truly make our world a better place. And we celebrate that generosity and tzedakah. At the same time, we cannot forget the admonition heard on every flight from the crew. In case oxygen masks descend, put on your own mask first before helping others. If Jewish survival is our mission, then we need to dedicate the resources required to ensure our own success and survival. Study after study has shown that Jews who participate in immersive experiences are more likely to remain Jewishly engaged throughout their lives. Jewish summer camps, day schools, adult learning, Israel trips, these are the engines of Jewish identity, yet access to them remains limited. Too many families cannot afford tuition, camp fees, or travel. If we truly want to survive, this is where we must concentrate our communal creativity and generosity, with a goal to make lifelong Jewish education and identity-forming experiences accessible to everyone. In addition to creating access, we must prioritize Jewish experiences for ourselves too. Make volunteering at temple and Jewish organizations part of your routine. Communicate with your children and grandchildren about the importance of Jewish activities. The temple and federation calendars contain countless Jewish engagement opportunities. So immerse yourself in our adult education and Melton classes. Attend a course by a rabbinic scholar, Rabbi Frank Muller. Explore your spiritual side in wise aging. Know that participation at Jewish experiences will be stimulating for you and set a precedent and an example for those around you. Check in with your loved ones and encourage their involvement too. Be willing to invest to make sure that they are also part of our future survival. Friends, as we gather on Kol Nidre, we remember that the mission of Apollo 13 never reached the moon, but it was a success because the crews survived, paving the way for future trips to the moon, including those being planned now. Likewise, Israel will remain our moon, our shining dream, our miraculous achievement, but our immediate mission is our survival. if we fail to invest in Jewish identity, if we fail to embrace our Jewish selves, if we fail to stop fighting each other, then the dream of Israel will be irrelevant to future generations. Israel's wars will end, conflicts resolve, but what will remain of American Jewry? This Yom Kippur, as we confess our sins and seek atonement, let us add this to our list: the sin of attacking one another, of losing sight of our mission, of forgetting to tend to our own survival. And let us also commit this Yom Kippur to acts of tshuva, not only returning to God, but returning to ourselves, to one another, and to our community. Let us commit to reclaiming our narrative, to being visible and proud Jews, to speaking with respect across our differences, and to investing our time and treasure in the future of Jewish life. Apollo 13 was a successful failure. May our generations be remembered as the ones that turned a crisis into a moment of renewal. May we be the ones that chose life, that reclaimed Jewish identity, that built a community strong enough to support Israel and strong enough to thrive in America. And may our children and grandchildren look back on us with gratitude, knowing that we carried them, l'dor v'ador, from generation to generation, safely back home. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be God's will.